whole country is in imminent danger for some time. But the danger isn't hitting big cities like New York or San Francisco. Instead, it's aimed at states in the middle where many people thought they'd be safe. But why? These places, filled with missile silos, act like a giant sponge that kind of soaks up enemy attacks. Unfortunately, this means people living there might face fatal destruction if nuclear war breaks out. But again, why put missiles in these areas? Well, during the Cold War, the US came up with a unique plan called the nuclear sponge. The idea was to keep big cities safe by putting lots of missile sites in less populated places. If another country attacked, they'd hopefully aim at these rural spots first, giving America time to strike back without hurting as many people in cities. These missile sites were buried deep underground and spread out far apart, mainly in the plain states, so they could fire north towards the Arctic, potentially reaching the other side of the planet to hit the Soviet Union. Now, what's new in this is the government wants to update this old defense plan. Even though many people don't like it, they're building more missile silos in central areas. With Russia's leader Putin making threats again, the US is spending a lot of money on this update. But it's not just expensive, it's also risky, and it might not keep Americans much safer. So, what exactly is the updated plan? To start off, the main plan for the United States to stay safe from a nuclear attack is to prevent it from happening at all. They focus on talking things out and calming situations down rather than preparing for a fight. Fixing up the nuclear sponge, which is part of their defense plan, is not a big priority right now, and some people think it's not even worth thinking about. Nowadays, it's not very useful anyway, which we'll talk about soon. But before we get into that, let's look at why the US is thinking about making changes to its nuclear sponge, where it came from, and which states are involved in protecting big cities from attacks. It's super important for people not to live in these states if there's a risk of a nuclear war. The nuclear sponge in the middle of the United States is a big deal because Russia, especially with what's going on in Ukraine, has talked about using small nuclear weapons. Even though these weapons aren't as powerful as the big ones, they can still do a lot of damage. If Russia uses them, NATO, which includes the US, has to do something about it. People worry that if Russia feels threatened enough, they might decide to use all their nuclear weapons, causing a huge disaster. This concern has made the US and NATO pay more attention and spend more money on military stuff, including the nuclear sponge in the middle of the country. This plan goes way back to the Cold War, when the US spread out missile silos across states like Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, South Dakota, and North Dakota. If you check the history, the first Minuteman missile silos were set up in the early 1960s. After the Cold War ended, South Dakota's silos were closed down, leaving only 5 states as the places where the US keeps its nuclear defense stuff. Different types of rockets have been in these states over the years, but Minuteman missiles are the favorites because they use solid fuel and can be launched easily. The landscapes of these states made it simple to build launch sites that could handle lots of silos all at once. Fast forward to the 1990s, there were about 1,000 Minuteman silos and around 100 launch control facilities spread across states like Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, and North Dakota. These places were chosen because they were close to Russia, far from the coast, and not densely populated. This setup was meant to protect big cities from enemy attacks. Back in the Cold War, the nuclear sponge concept suggested that having lots of silos could draw attention away from big cities, like a sponge soaking up water. But now, with Russia having so many nuclear weapons, this idea doesn't work well anymore. They could attack both the silos and cities without much trouble. Plus, nowadays, submarines can launch missiles, making fixed silos less useful. Even though silos are easy to spot and could be targeted, it wouldn't be smart for enemies like Vladimir Putin to waste time attacking them. Now, the major problem with the nuclear sponge is that it was supposed to protect big cities. But what about the people living in states like Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, and North Dakota? It's scary to think that the government would sacrifice one area to save another. Instead of doing this, countries should focus on getting rid of nuclear weapons